Hey everyone, my name is Wedge. In this video, we're going to look at the rest of the guest design cards in M15. For those of you who don't know, Wizards reached out to members of the gaming community and had them design cards for the set. There are 15 guest design cards total. We covered Spirit Bonds yesterday, designed by Justin Gary, the designer of Ascension, Chronicle of the Godslayer, and Soulforge. Let's get to the rest of them right now. We'll start with Avarice Amulet, designed by Mike and Jerry, aka Gabe and Tycho of Penny Arcade. 4 mana for an equipment, equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has vigilance, and at the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card. When equipped creature dies, target opponent gains control of Avarice Amulet. The card is flavorful, that's for sure. Because it's an equipment that draws cards, it'll see play in Commander. Beyond that, you could put it into a hexproof strategy, but 6 mana is a lot to play and equip it. I like the card, it's just a gigantic mana sink. I don't think I'm ready for that kind of commitment right now, okay? James Ernest, the designer of Kill Dr. Lucky, brings us Hot Soup, a 1 mana equipment. Equipped creature can't be blocked. Whenever equipped creatures dealt damage, destroy it. I'm not sure how I can take this card seriously when it's called Hot Soup. I kind of just want some clam chowder right now. Like the white clam chowder, not the red. Wow, I'm hungry. Let's move on. I have nothing left to say besides soup is delicious. Oh, and don't drop it on yourself or it will scald you fatally, apparently. Shield of the Avatar is a 1 mana equipment brought to you by Richard Lord British Garriott, the creator of the Ultima series. If a source would deal damage to an equipped creature, prevent X of that damage, where X is the number of creatures you control. It equips for 2 and only costs 1 to cast, so that's an upside. I can see this in a decent amount of aggressive commander decks. Outside of that format, you're looking at a possible sideboard card for Standard. What makes this decent is that it specifies each source has damage prevented. You'll get to prevent damage from both spells and creatures should your opponent really want to kill your creature. On top of that, potential protection against Death Touch is nothing to scoff at. I hate Death Touch. I don't think this will be a staple or anything, but I can see where aggressive decks would want something like this against Burn or any other creature-heavy strategy. Moving right along, we have Warden of the Beyond, designed by Isaiah Cartwright, lead game designer for Guild Wars 2. The Warden is 3 mana, 2 of any, and 1 white for a 2/2 human wizard with vigilance. It gets +2/+2 as long as an opponent owns a card in exile. The design of the card is sweet, there's no denying that. His viability is in question. At best, being a 4/4 vigilance creature for 3 is certainly playable. Plus, vigilance is more relevant than ever since Convoke is back. There are plenty of exiling enablers, you just have to build a deck that wants him and a bunch of removal. It could work though. Chasms Skulker is a 1-wood squid horror for 2 colorless and 1 blue, brought to us by Mike Newman, the creative director of Borderlands. Whenever you draw a card, put a 1/1 counter on the Skulker. When it dies, put X 1/1 blue squid creature tokens with Island Walk onto the battlefield, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on Chasms Skulker. You remember Lorescale Kodal? That guy was annoying to deal with. This squid horror, while coming in as a 1/1, gets big, fast. You have to remove it, there are no options. Even if you leave it alive for a couple turns, that could be all the blue player needs to draw some extra cards and make this thing a true nightmare. Just saying, Sphinx's Revelation and the Skulker will be in Standard together for a few months. Just saying. Master of Predicaments is 3 colorless and 2 blue for a 4/4 flying Sphinx designed by David Serlin, a designer on Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix. That's the title of a game. It's 1 game. Whenever the master deals combat damage to a player, choose a card in your hand. That player guesses whether the card's converted mana cost is greater than 4. If the player guesses wrong, you may cast the card without paying its mana cost. What? Do you see these tattoos? Do you see them? I love betting and I love guessing games. Any chance I get to mess with my opponent, I'll take it. The master isn't cheap, but the ability could create some serious pressure. Plus, in a limited game, a 4/4 flyer for 5 is pretty darn good. Also, it should go without saying that this is a bomb in Commander, obviously. Next up is Cruel Sadist, a 1 black mana 1/1 human assassin designed by Edmund McMillan, the designer of indie hit Super Meat Boy. You can pay 1 black, tap her, and pay 1 life to put a 1/1 counter on her. You can also pay 3 and tap her to remove X +1/+1 counters from her and have her deal X damage to target creature. First things first, that art, girl in a dress with a scythe, what? Okay, past that, this is an interesting take on assassins. Instead of outright destroying something, it uses counters to deal damage. It's definitely a fresh take on the concept, but I'm not sure they hit the mark. It takes both mana and life to make her ability relevant if you have no other way to give her counters. Even if you do, this seems like a really roundabout way to deal with a creature. Just play Doomblade like a normal Black Devotion player to get your pound of flesh. Get it? It's flesh, like meat, Super Meat Boy? No? Nothing? Okay. Brad Murr is a game designer at Double Fine Productions. He was the project lead on Iron Brigade. He's the reason we have a new Nixilis. Nixilis Unshackled is 4 colorless and 2 black for a 4/4 legendary creature demon with flying and trample. Whenever an opponent searches their library, that player sacrifices a creature and loses 10 life. Right. When another creature dies, put a 1/1 counter on him. This is crazy. Nixilis was hilarious enough back in Zendikar. This version of him completely hoses any deck running any kind of tutor effect or land searchability, like maybe fetch lands. Anyways, you can expect to see this version of Nixilis in Commander pretty much forever. Also, possibly Modern. There are fetch lands there. Plus, getting to Path to Exile something without there being any downside sounds pretty funny to me. There's even some whisperings about him being used in Vintage. You can get him out on turn 2. If you can do that and protect him, most Vintage strategies survive by searching their decks. If this can see play in any constructed format that isn't Commander, things are going to get dangerous. I'd love it to see Standard play, but the meta would have to change a little bit. I'd be okay with that though. My mom always says, a Standard with Nixilis is always better than a Standard without him. She does not say that. Sorry, Mom. This next card should look familiar since you made it. Waste Nod is the Magic community submission for M15. 2 mana for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent discards a creature card, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. Whenever an opponent discards a land card, add 2 black mana to your mana pool. Whenever an opponent discards a non-creature, non-land card, draw a card. Okay guys, just listen. I don't know why you did this. I already have friends with the rack commander decks. I swear, at this point it's like their lifeblood is made up of people's tears. They don't need this. This card's just crazy. Not even just commander. I know people will underestimate this card. There are smallpox decks in Legacy that are probably already testing with this. Any deck that runs Thoughtseize has at least given it a passing thought. Just don't underestimate this card. We have no idea how good it could be. I'm just being cautious. It's like the dead, corrupted, disgusting version of Primeval Bounties. Ugh. Our next card is Zathra's Slyblade, a 3 mana 2/1 human assassin with hexproof designed by Rob Pardo, Chief Creative Officer at Blizzard Entertainment. You can pay 4 and until end of turn, the Slyblade loses hexproof and gains first strike and death touch. This is the kind of assassin I like to see. It's so flavorful. In the shadows, can't kill it. Only when it goes in for the kill are you able to take advantage. The flavorgasm is so strong. As far as playability is concerned, I think it'll do fine in Limited. The ability is a bit expensive, so standard viability seems low, but in a limited game, if you get to untap with it, you have a nasty blocker they'll have to deal with. Aggressive Mining comes from none other than the creator of Minecraft himself, Marcus Pearson, aka Notch. Who would have thunk it? The guy who made Minecraft would make a mining-related card, then everything in the artwork is blocks. Creative freedom. Anyways, Aggressive Mining is 3 colorless and 1 red for an enchantment. You can't play lands. Alright. You can sacrifice a land to draw 2 cards, and you can only activate this ability once each turn. First thing I'm pretty sure everyone thought of when they saw this, Zedru the Greathearted. If your opponent's deck can't deal with this card in Commander, they just die. How hysterical is that? It's even in her colors. If you take away the Commander viability, I guess burn decks could give it a shot. You'd have to get to 4 mana to cast it, but then it's just play your hand out and hope to have them dead by the time you run out of lands. Like, I kind of like that. This next card has the best name ever. Goblin Kaboomist is a 2-mana 1/2 Goblin Warrior designed by Stone LeBron, a lead designer at Riot Games. As a matter of fact, this kind of looks like Ziggs. What a coincidence. Not really. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a colorless artifact token named Landmine onto the battlefield with the ability to pay 1 red mana and sacrifice the landmine to deal 2 damage to target attacking creature without flying. Wow, that was a mouthful. Oh, not done yet. Okay. Then flip a coin. If you lose the flip, the Kaboomist deals 2 damage to itself. Okay, let's break this down. Every upkeep, you get an artifact that you can sacrifice to deal damage to an attacker. Each time you do this, you effectively have a 50% chance of blowing up your token generator. I don't know about you, but this pretty much sums up Red in a nutshell. You blow other things up and sometimes blow yourself up too. The card is cool. Not gonna lie, I have no clue where this would or should see play. Are people still trying to make Trading Post work? Because that would be a great synergy. Sack artifacts for cards, it seems strong. All I do know is that Kaboomist is now a profession and I need to find a trade school to teach me that. One of the first designer cards we saw was Genesis Hydra, brought to you by George Fan, designer of Plants vs. Zombies. X and 2 green get you a 0/0. When you cast Genesis Hydra, reveal the top X cards of your library. You may put a non-land permanent card with converted mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield, then shuffle the rest. It enters the battlefield with X+1/+1 counters on it. Long story short, you play this creature, you get a Hydra like you normally would, but not until you Genesis Wave. Granted, you only get 1 permanent, but the effect is similar. You can pay 4 for X and get a Pelucranos for free. This could see play in Standard. It's finally a Hydra that is useful even though it can't protect itself. Green players should be pumped. Get more pumped. Hell Hydra. Yisan the Wanderer Bard is 3 mana for a 2/3 legendary creature human rogue designed by Brian Fargo, the executive producer of Fallout and the director of Bard's Tale. Never would have guessed. Anyways, you can pay 3, tap Yisan, and put a verse counter on him to search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to the number of verse counters on Yisan, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Let's get 2 things straight. First, that is a picture of Solid Snake with a lyre. Second, this is a birthing pod commander, except you don't have to sacrifice anything. Sure, if he dies, you have to start over, but that isn't reason enough to not play this. There's no downside. He's like a balanced version of Birthing Pod and Elvish Piper all rolled into one. This is a green creature I can get behind. Wow, this was a long video. If you made it this far, leave a comment with a smiley face, because we're all in this together. What did you guys think about the designer cards? As far as flavor is concerned, they hit it out of the park overall. I love all of these. I hope they do it again in the future. Who would you want to design a card for M16? Let me know in the comments. As always, subscribe below for the latest and most reliable M15 spoiler information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source, I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.
Wow.